And here's a view of the rest of my mess. I mean, come on guys, how many labs have a wood-burning stove for a tabletop with some clean white paper? Is this backyard engineering or what? Hey guys, welcome back to Rollade's Bench. This is Rolland. How'd you like that mad scientist lab we had set up here last night? Surely every crazy dude is allowed his own messy lab, right? Got a lot. This is going to be a longer video. I'm going to go as fast as I can here. This testing was just to see low light capability. There's all different aspects that we found along the way, better resolutions, some more or less with noise factor, made it a little tougher to see on screens, etc. You'll hear parts of that in the video as I'm taking them. But I want to give you a little background from this. Again, last summer, fall, getting into this fairly detailed, making more videos. I really wanted to try the Watec 902. There's the 902H2, H2 Supreme, Ultimate. Some of them, the earlier 902, some of you guys have, don't even have any of your adjustments unless you open it up, go inside and change a pot. Long and short, same CCD sensor, X-View. I'm going to say it's the last generation. They just brought out a new 1/3 X-View, which is what is being used in the EJ230. Still got my mounts on it here. And the E190 that you've seen me use in other videos. And then Sony came out with a 1/2 inch, which Watec is got a prototype right here that we compared. One we're all excited about, and wait till you see the results. So stick with this. I want to tell you though a little bit of what we did. For starters, we used a chart like you're going to be seeing here on the screen. I did an indoor lab test. I focused on the fuzzy circle here and came over, made sure that we could see the lettering. And at the top part there of the screen, you can see them circles that get bigger and bigger with the lines in it. Whenever them circles were clear and the setup was such that as long as I could see the lines in the bottom circle on the viewing monitor that I was using, that was where that was my baseline. So taking that, I did a whole bunch of indoor tests. I used the E190, which is the newer X-View, it's the one I use on the goggles, as my baseline camera. I set all my lighting up so that we did a full light test, and then we did a minimum light test so I could just see the lines in them little, in the biggest circles at the bottom of the picture I just showed you. Then I used the 850 IR. I got it all set up so I was just getting just enough 850 IR so I could just see them lines. Same with the 940. So this was the baseline camera. The chart you're going to see a little bit, that's what we'll call it our baseline is really our one. Now, all them lab tests, I could show you tons of it. I got so much information. Another huge thanks to Morten from Norway, who's been partnering with me on this. Guy knows all the math. Morten, you rock on all that math and aspect of it that I know if I dig in, I can get there, but it takes me a little while. I've got to sector off my brain energy for just the task at hand. So lots of email back and forth. We set up a kind of a test procedure, and then he helped do the math to come up with the chart that I'm going to show you in a little bit. Now the other thing I'm going to say is we used a 75mm 1.3 lens and a 50mm 1.3 lens, not a zoom. Pretty decent optics, and Morten again did the math so that when we did the comparison, he adjusted for the light factor differences between the two, more or less. Here's in a rough layman's terms, if the 50mm is on a 1/3 camera at the 1.3 f-stop, wide open, it is the same or almost the same as the 75mm on the 1/2 inch CCDs at an f-stop of 2. Close enough for layman's terms. We used all of that, did a baseline, tested the 902H2, E190, what we're going to be calling the MC300. This is from AliExpress, Chinese camera, Has the same CCD, the 700 TVL lines, X-View, 960 Superhead, blah 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 blah. As opposed to the EJ230, we had the EJ230, and then the new prototype of the 910HX RC remote control with OSD. I'm going to just say this. I got into this, guys, in this testing, thinking that the 902H2 would place right up here by the other one, ahead of the EJ230. I tested over and over again, multiple times, and look at the chart and see how they stack up. Actually, the Watec 902H2 Ultimate in its best settings was a little lower in sensitivity and quality than any of these other cameras. That was a shocker for me. Still a good camera. Remember, we're testing the top that we know that are available today, not just random Chinese stuff. Will this work? Will that work? Let's spend the very lowest dollar. This is somewhere between mid to upper dollar for the do-it-yourself market. I won't be giving you all the lab detail stuff. It's just way too much data, guys. What you really want to see is how does this work out there in real life? And so here we go. Hey guys, it's late. Earlier today we shot the range in the daylight and sunshine. Well, rain has moved in, it's night, and tonight is new moon. The darkest we're ever going to get it, at least here at my property. So I've got this really interesting setup. Some of you have asked for some testing ideas when I had mentioned testing some of these new cameras, the new Watec and so forth, that we have some things in front of us. So I moved back from my bench out there that you usually see me testing right outside the window with my recording gear and so forth set up, so that we will actually be looking through a bench and around some trees to actually look out into the range. So we have plenty of chances for lots of whiteout from IR lights and so forth in the foreground, and I think it's going to work really good. Okay, we've got the EJ230. This is 15 yards. We're looking through a bench at a little frog. We can see part of the 15-yard sign. Sharpen up my focus a little. There's 25 yards. We can read the garage. 50 and 75. It's a little hard for me to tell what my focus is doing at the moment now. We're going to just kind of go on out, follow the tree line. Them trees right there are sharpen my focus right there. That's 280 yards. So deer-sized animal walking out through there. I think you'd see it moving. Then you could hit it with IR if you wanted to confirm and make a shot. That tree line is 600 yards. And now we're going to test a 940 IR, testing for blowout as we look through an object close up. So we're looking through to this frog right here. Same here at, let me get my focus better here. Same here, we're looking over this bench now at the moose at 25 yards. We are at 50 yards, we got a tree there to the side. 75, 100. This IR doesn't do much more over 75, 100. And since tonight we're not testing IR, we're testing low light capability. I'm only using this to see what it looks like for blowout. This is the E190, and just using it for a quick similar test to the EJ230. I knew it wasn't going to be quite as well. It's the same CCD, it's just that you can't make adjustments to it. But this is what you're getting. So still able to barely see a little bit of the bench and looking through. As I go out to the range, I can just barely see blobs. Okay, this is the MC300. I've got it set. Its settings are A little different than the EJ230. It supposedly is the same CCD. So it does allow sense up. We've got sense up to 4 times, which is 1/15 of a second, and I wouldn't want it any slower than that. I'll show you a little bit of movement. You can tell there's a little bit of sense up blur. But because of that, we have just a little bit brighter picture. So there's the frog looking through the bench, 15 yards. And we're going to adjust our focus here. And you can see the 50-yard sign. You can make it out just a little bit. I'm going to go out to that tree line again. Things are just a touch brighter, but at least the way on my couple different monitors, I've even used my Vuzix glasses, it seems like that this, compared to the EJ230, there's just a little different noise, and it makes it a little more challenging. And it's just a little different, slightly different noise. Still a very good camera for the money. I'm not sure how this recording will show it. There's the tree line at 600, and it looks like daylight. And when I look out there, I can barely make out a shadow maybe. Okay, here we are with the 940 IR, ready to see how this camera responds to flare-up. Both introduced if you're switching from no IR to IR, and also with like a bench in front of you here. And this camera just takes a little bit longer to respond than the EJ, but does a pretty decent job. Very similar. So there's our frog through the bench. I can hold still enough. Here's us looking over the bench. And let me adjust my focus a touch more here. Looking pretty good there. You can see just that sense up creating just a little bit slower movement. Something is running. Their eyes are going to look like a falling star. 375. 100. Again, I'm just looking for how does it respond to the bright tree to the one side. Can we still see and read what we're looking at here? Okay, now for the 902H2 Ultimate Watec. And this is the hard part. This is pretty tough to say, but it just got its butt kicked by the EJ. We were sitting here. I had to turn on my headlight like this just to get a white light focus. And so when I go off, I can maybe barely make out a little bit of that bench there. So let's go up and start looking out toward the range. Now there I might be able to sort of, I can barely read at the 25. Again, I have I think there's a 50 sign right through there. I can just barely see it on the monitor. We can go out to the tree line. You can see we're picking up way on out there when we get that extra light, but in this darker business, can't hardly make out anything. And I am really surprised. I just did not expect this much difference with what is been the current top camera here in the forums. Never had a chance to try it right side by side with the EJ. Wanted to last fall, and just now getting the chance. The exciting thing, though, would be the next camera. But before we get to that, let's check the flare-up issue that people have talked about a lot with this. Dave, some bloke, I know that this was a test you wanted to see. You wanted to see how does it respond, and we're going to kind of get this dialed in, so bear with me here. So I've got my same 940 IR set to the same power. Everything is the same. I'm on a low AGC. So there's our 940 IR with a current Watec the 902H2, and we're looking through. Now let's look over top here. It's not doing too bad. One thing I do know about this is the way that it controls the it senses some of the flare up is because of the way it's weighted to the middle and lower part. I'm not going to go into detail of that right now, but just trust me that it has to do with some of them earlier cameras. You couldn't adjust them, and they're getting better and better. So here we're out at 5075. Let's get let's focus in on that. You can tell it's obviously not as sensitive with the 940 IR either. Just can't see as much detail on out there like I could with the other ones. But I want you to get excited about what's coming, because I have the prototype next, the 910 HX, and from my lab test, it's going to be exciting. Let's get that thing out. Okay guys, black screen here. Had to do a little unveiling. This is the 910 HX prototype with the new Sony sensor in it, 1/2 inch CCD. So here is what you get. Guys, that is no additional light. In fact, a little light rain has picked up. So if there's anything, the Wattec is at a slight disadvantage with that little very light rain now that's falling compared to when I videoed a little bit ago the EJ230. Now first we're going to look at the range without bumping the f-stop down a little. So here we are. Let me get my focus right. Here we are, 25 yards. $50 yards. Again, this is default factory settings. It's using a 4x sense up. So fast movement, you can see there's a little bit of blur at this low light, but it looks like we've got sunshine shining on all this. Here's our 75, and you can see a little bit of that white swan at the 100. Check out them trees. Get the focus dialed in. Keep moving it around here. That's incredible. Let's look across to the, it just looks like daylight now. There, get my focus again. We do have that that little light stream that you see that's coming out from the neighbors. Everything is the same. The only thing is there's been a little bit of a light rain pickup, which actually gives this a disadvantage. Now, we're going to go back down here. We're going to start one more time. I keep messing this focus up. I'm sorry. So we're going to open the f-stop up another stop. Now we're at 1.3. So this is one more stop ahead. So a little bit ago we were trying to do a fair comparison to say the EJ230 and so forth. Now we've got the total light that this thing can gather. Would you look at that? That is amazing. No additional light. No additional light at all. The tree in the foreground right here.
Just focus in on that real quick here if we can. You can tell there's still a few blooms left right there. That's something else. Okay, let's go back out on the range. Try to get our focus dialed here. Back out to them trees. That is just incredible. We are not adding any light to this at all. There, it had to back itself down. Okay, now let's come back in to, where's our little guy at here again? And let's test the flare up. Okay, so here we are with the new Wattec. That is a sweet looking picture. Very clear, very clean. Look at my focus again. Boy, this does very good with this IR light. What I can see, at least in the monitor, is just a crisper. You can tell we're looking at a crisper, clear. Again, I want to just double check to make sure. Yeah, I'm dialed all the way up, full power. Same one we used a little bit ago on the others. So now we're going to jump into the OSD. I want to show you what other capabilities we have. We can turn the 3DNR on and off, so compared to the older Wattec, takes out some of that snow. Look at that, isn't that sweet? We can go in here to exposure and the sense up, and we can go down to 2x sense up so it doesn't have as much drag. Still a nice looking picture. Whoops, sorry, I hit the connection. Wrong way. So you can go down to 2x. I figured that 4 is the max that anybody's going to want to go, but I wanted to show you how good it was even at 2x. So I'm going to bump back up to 4. AGC, we're used to that. Right now, the old other Wattec, the 902H2 that we're used to here, can mostly handle just the low. Mid or high, get just a lot of that white snow and yuck. Yeah. So in our application, so there is a lot of adjustment, as you can see here, for your current conditions. So whatever you're out at night, whatever the setup is, how much moon you got, etc. You can tweak this stuff right on the fly, which is just awesome. But here there's even more. You can even bump the setting a little more with WDR and bring on, and each of these is customizable low and high level. So you can actually tweak 2 different settings to vary depending on your setting, depending on what light you're using. Okay, so we can go in here to functions, effects, and we can zoom. And from what I have figured, you can also pan, tilt, so you can get to the area that you want to zoom at. We're going to continue to zoom on the 75-yard sign, which is really more like 85 yards from us right now. Okay, so now naturally when we zoom here, we're zooming and increasing the pixelation, so you can see the pixels becoming bigger and bigger. But what I found that somewhere around 3x is about the max that still allows you, compared to what you see at 1x, you still get to come in there a little bit closer, in that 3 at the max. But Nice feature for when the reticle comes here soon. But wow, it just blew all the cameras away with this light sensitivity and in a light rain. So incredible. Okay, I had to add just a little bit more on this new 910HX just to show you how well the sensor does with these crazy bright spots. I've got the Streamlight 850R, which is the bright one, which usually ends up blowing out spots. So I'm at 15. Okay, I'm at 15. I'll quit bumping that other connection. And let me look how nice that is. Crisp and clear. Darling, you need to go to bed. Keep whacking stuff here. 50 yards. 75. 100 yards. There's the coon up there in the tree. At least the eyes we can see. What I'm noticing though, compared to when I use this, say on the EJ, is how well it's adjusting. And although it's slightly blown out, it's not near as blown out. It's incredible. Make sure my focus is on, because I want to go on out here to these trees at 300 yards. And we're looking through, look at that bat. Did you guys see that bat flying around? Look at that bat out there. That is cool. Check it out. 2 of them. 3 of them. We still have a light rain, so we're dealing with looking through a light rain too, which is killing us. It's to some extent, and I'm so impressed. But there's trees at 300 yards, and now I'm getting excited about bats flying around that we're catching. That is just awesome. The quality of this sensor is just awesome. This will make a sweet scopeless build. And there's our trees way, way out there. If I get my focus right. Okay, there we go. We got trees at 600 yards, and this beam is definitely visible on them. It's not necessarily lighting them up a lot, but you can see it hitting across them. 600 yards. I'm pretty excited about these bats. Where did they go? Wow, Watech and Sony, you've done an awesome job on this build. Goes that bat again. I'll be out here all night just watching bats and whatnot in the... Okay, after that Watech 910HX prototype performing so awesomely, I came back one more time to the 902H2 Ultimate that is, we all thought maybe was the cat's meow, and it is a good, but when comparing it to some of these other ones, for instance, here we are at 25, I can barely see the 25. The EJ230 and even the Chinese MC300 is outperforming this camera right here. But as you just seen, this new Watech that's coming is the cat's meow. Over and out, boys. Time for this guy to go to bed. And now one more quick test again with the EJ230 right after. Still just a little bit of light rain, but not quite as much here. But right after the 902H2, again, guys, this is what we're getting. I can read that 25-yard sign. And I know really what's happening here. There's the 50, I can even make it out somewhat. Is the 902H2 uses the older X-View sensor. The EJ230 is using the new sensor, the new generation of X-View sensors in the 3rd CCD, and this prototype, the 910HX Watech, is using the 1/2 inch. So we're talking about the next generation up. and that's why both of these perform so well.
Well, that's about a wrap. I want to tell you what's coming up. This is getting shipped out next day red so they can continue to use the prototype here in the US. Thanks again, Watech, for letting us borrow it and getting a sneak peek into what's coming. When the next version comes out, the one that should be coming with crosshairs, and when I get that in hand and so forth, I will look into that and review it. This is going to make an awesome scopeless build. It will also make a great camera for an add-on. But I want to do a little more detailed, so I'm going to have some tips and tricks videos coming up. Then I'm going to do a video comparing a little bit more about the EJ compared to this, I'm going to say the EJ knockoff from Chinese, and whether it's really worth it or not. If you noticed on the chart, there was one place that scored a little higher on the 850 by a roughly one stop. The $30 you save, it's a toss-up. So if more things are coming, I'm going to take a little bit of break though, because I'm kind of tired. See you guys.